I've been meaning to review this game for a while, so it's time to finally review Tomb Raider. No, not that one. I wish that one. Yeah, that's the one.
I am a huge fan of Tomb Raider. I have been since the very beginning. The puzzles, the platforming, the action, the adventure, the story, and mystery. It's an Indiana Jones video game, just with a woman. Lara Croft has gone through so much over the years. Her backstory has been rebooted twice. First in Tomb Raider Legend and again in the new Tomb Raider. Oddly, her backstory has been rebooted each time one of her games flopped. After Angel of Darkness, Tomb Raider Legend gave her a different backstory. After Underworld, which I found to be really buggy, this new Tomb Raider gave her a different backstory.
Well, I've heard that the new one reboots her backstory again, but I've avoided everything that could be a possible spoiler because I haven't gotten the game yet.
The original backstory is that Lara was raised to be an aristocrat, went to the finest schools, and took up archaeology after hearing a lecture from Werner von Croy, who became her mentor and later antagonist in The Last Revelation. She was involved in a plane crash at the age of 21 in the Himalayas where she was the only survivor. The ordeal had a profound change on her, so she took up adventuring because she couldn't stand the upper-class British life and her family disowned her. She eventually became the tomb-raiding archaeologist she is now by making a name for herself.
That's Lara's backstory in a very confined nutshell, but there's a lot more to it. However, in Tomb Raider Legend, they rebooted it.
In the Legend storyline, Lara's father was a famous archaeologist, and she and her mother were involved in a plane crash in the Himalayas. They took refuge in a cave, and young Lara activated a portal to the future by touching a sword and overheard a conversation between her future self and her enemy. Lara's mother had no idea what was going on, and wanting to protect her daughter, pulled the sword out and vanished. Lara was reunited with her father, who had her privately tutored and took her on expeditions as well. Then her father went missing. Because her father's body was not recovered, she could not inherit his estate and got locked into a legal battle with her uncle. She won in the end, but it caused a rift between her and the rest of her relatives who ostracized her from the family.
As you can see, they kept a lot of similar elements, so it's the same, but it's different, and yeah, it's complicated.
They kept that Lara was born into wealth and a child prodigy. They kept the plane crash in the Himalayas, but it happened at different points in time. Her mentors for archaeology were different, her schooling was different, and she was ostracized from her relatives for different reasons. In the Legends storyline, they took away some of that hardcore bitch personality and made her more fragile. They changed her motivation for archaeology and made it into a search for her mother, and the Anniversary game used this backstory too.
It's essentially the same treatment that Team Ninja gave Samus in Metroid Other M, where they turned this strong female character into this fragile, vulnerable person.
The only thing that worries me about this new Tomb Raider is that they're trying too much to make it look like Uncharted instead of its own game. And when I get the game next weekend, I'll probably do a retrospective comparing all three Tomb Raider games at some point in time. Speaking of Uncharted, ironically, the idea for the original Tomb Raider, the main character, was a guy. But Toby Gard said that if you're going to be staring at a character's backside for hours on end, that it should be an attractive female backside.
This is assumed to be a joke because of all the talk of Lara's sexual appeal. At least I hope it's a joke, otherwise those are some pretty lonely programmers.
If you're wondering why I'm reviewing the Anniversary remake, this was something a long time coming. In fact, it was supposed to be a side-by-side comparison of the original and the remake that I wanted to do before the new Tomb Raider that was released 19 days ago at time of writing. However, I could not get any version of the original Tomb Raider to work. I've exhausted every resource that I have. I've tried everything short of having a PS3 and downloading it off the PlayStation Network. And when I mean everything, I mean everything. 3 different copies of the game. I've tried emulating it and that didn't work. Even the version off of Steam, which doesn't work that well on my computer because it runs in DOSBox. Yeah, it's that really old MS-DOS version that came out at the same time as the PlayStation 1. And my computer is just too advanced to be able to run it. How ironic.
Luckily, I have the original Tomb Raider memorized because I played it so much when I was 11, and not just because she was a hot chick with huge tits.
I've played 3 versions of Tomb Raider Anniversary. The PSP version, which I don't remember much about, the 360 and PC versions. And unfortunately, I'm playing the PC version. Although, looking at scores, the PC version scores the highest. Although I disagree, I think the 360 version is the better one. So when I give my rating, I'm not basing it entirely on the PC version. I'm just using this one as I traded my 360 copy in a while ago. The PC version does seem to be buggy, and especially when it comes to the responsiveness of the controls. I had to do the T-Rex boss fight several times because of the lack of response. Lara would either dodge forward or backwards when I would hit left or right, or just not dodging at all, or not firing when you enter that bullet time dodge thing when the aiming reticule turns red.
I rock this boss on the 360, so I know it's not a lack of skill, and you guys are seeing these clips, I'm making Lara bound and leap effortlessly.
The game is really good graphically, but the PC version seems to dip below what would be considered acceptable for 2007, especially since the 7th generation of gaming was hitting its stride then. I would say that the PC version looks in between generations at times, mainly during cutscenes. I don't think that I should be seeing polygons or low resolution textures, especially when I have it set on the highest settings. But Lara still looks like a cartoon character when compared to other characters, which makes no sense as she looks more realistic on the cover. The game is also very loud too. Well, compared to the original anyway. There's more music than the original, or at least the music tracks are longer than the 20-second blips that they used to be.
Which to me takes away from the atmosphere, and the level design does that as well.
In the original PlayStation, the levels were bigger and more open. It was also a lot quieter with mostly ambience as your only soundtrack. It made you feel alone. The dark levels, the howling winds echoing through the caves, the occasional drip of water, the atmosphere was a lot better in the original. In this remake, everything is smaller and more confined and given a more realistic feel, which is good and all, but it drastically cuts down on that atmosphere and that alone feeling. So I'm not able to immerse myself in the game as much as I would like to.
While the level design is good, it just takes away that feeling of it being a tomb and making it more like a big jungle gym.
A lot of the mechanics from Legends carry over, like the grapple hook and the swinging on bars, although I think that bar swinging was introduced in earlier games. I'm not sure, since after Tomb Raider 3, the series started to decline in quality. And these new elements, especially the grapple hook, gives you that go-anywhere feeling, which makes puzzle solving a lot easier, which is in contrast to the original, where the puzzles were challenging. And in another odd contrast, the combat in Anniversary is more difficult than the original.
And at times, the enemies can be pants-on-head retarded.
I think the enemies have a love for the walls as they get stuck on them a lot. However, this seems to only be persistent in the PC version. It does make the combat a lot easier, but it just looks hilarious. But the auto lock-on sucks, too. Lara will just shoot at stationary objects while being attacked, or will continue to shoot at dead enemies, all the while being attacked by enemies that are still alive. The camera is pretty bad too. It zooms in way too close when you get into confined areas, to the point where you can get stuck in that area. I remember the old camera not getting stuck like that, as it would make sure to be zoomed out enough, but I could be wrong.
I know it sounds like I'm doing a lot of criticism, and I am, but that's to be expected when remakes are involved.
But Tomb Raider Anniversary is a really good remake, probably one of the best video game remakes out there. Crystal Dynamics has done an amazing job re-envisioning and modernizing the classic Tomb Raider to bring it up to current day standards. If for some reason you don't have access to the original, this is an equally good substitute. And if you're wondering which one I think is better, I really can't say, as from a technical standpoint, they're both really good for the time in which they were released and do well with the technology that was available to them at their respective points in time. The only issue I have is that since Lara was rebooted in Legend, she has a more fragile personality and isn't the hardcore bitch she used to be.
As someone who's played the original, I can say that Tomb Raider Anniversary is a good game. A very good game. It's a remake that's on par with the original. Just stay away from the PC version.
I thought this was a pretty good game, and if you thought this was a pretty good review, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and share with your friends. And while you're at it, be sure to check out some of my other videos as well.